Hi, welcome to my channel. For those who don't know me, I'm still in cosplay and I have experience in cosplay competitions both as a competitor and a judge. And I thought it would be fun if we talked about how to choose a competition cosplay. I typically do videos like this as well as tutorials and progress videos for my competition builds. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you have any questions from anything that I talk about in this video or any general competition or cosplay questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below. I am pretty responsive. So just to preface this is my opinion. This is just how I personally think through how to choose a competition piece and kind of how I choose a contest. I'll go ahead and give my thoughts on all that. I do want to go ahead and start off with giving some details about cosplay competitions in general and sort of walk through some examples of like how I chose next year. So with that, let's get on into it. When thinking about cosplay competitions, I think it's best to break them into three main categories. You have a masquerade, a performance-based contest, and a craftsmanship-based contest. I typically compete in the craftsmanship. I can't say the word today. I typically compete in the craftsmanship contest, but performance-based contests are very popular as well, and you'll see masquerades at a lot of competitions, in particular smaller cons. So what are these? So starting with the masquerade are sometimes called walk-on contests, and I know that the definition can vary with the usage of that word because some conventions call their craftsmanship contests masquerades as well, but typically a masquerade or a walk-on competition will be where you dress up in a costume. You don't have to have made it. You can have purchased it, commissioned it, you could have made it, and then you walk on stage, you do a few poses, and then you walk off. Those I think often, I've only done a couple of them, and I'm pretty sure typically what you're wind up being judged on from my memory is whether or not you embody the character and your stage presence makes a lot of difference. There's not really a performance aspect of it like a 2-minute skit, and you don't have any sort of meeting pre-judging beforehand so that the judges can see your costume up close. It's just a few seconds on stage, but your performance on there, how you carry yourself, how you pose really makes a difference in whether or not you place. And then there's performance-based competitions. There's some really big ones. Most international contests are performance-based. The big one, the big circuit that takes you to the World Cosplay Summit in Japan is very heavy in performance. These balance both craftsmanship and a skit. Typically it's between 2 and 3 minutes, and that skit needs to be as well put together and creative and interesting as the craftsmanship of your piece. You typically have to have made at least 70% of your costume to qualify for a performance-based competition. Then there's strictly craftsmanship-based competitions, which are my personal favorite because I get a little stage fright when I need to do a skit, so I stick mostly in this realm. This is where the only thing that truly matters is the craftsmanship of your cosplay. You typically also have to have made at least 70%, though these can be as high as 90% to qualify, and that typically varies between like novice, journeyman, and master levels. And you get a pre-judging slot with this one. You also get pre-judging slot with the performance one. I forgot to mention that. But you get pre-judging, which is where you go and meet with the judges beforehand. You typically have between 2 and 5 minutes with the judges, and they will get in your costume and flip the seams and look at your stitching and how you finish things and ask you specific questions about the process so they can really judge whose costume is the best made. When you get to the stage, you have typically 10 to 30 seconds to walk on and pose. You don't necessarily have to embody the character. This is just your time to shine. You cannot do a skit, you can't have any special music, you just walk on, do some poses, show off your costume, and you walk off, and then prizes are awarded. In craftsmanship competitions, the winners are typically determined before you ever walk the stage. they're determined from the prejudging. Though sometimes there could be a small percentage of stage presence that is part of the judging that could make or break a tie, for instance. Like if your score was the same as another person's score, that little bit of stage presence could push your score just over to win. And also, if something happens to break or fall apart on stage, that could cost you a potential win. So stage performance does matter, your stage presence does matter, but nowhere near as much as a performance-based contest. So those are the three main types of cosplay contests. And because of the different vibe with each of them, that really does play into how you should choose the type of costume that you decide to make for or enter into the contest. So I won't speak much to the walk-on contest since it's sort of a free-for-all. You can choose whatever you want and you could win with whatever you wore. There's not a lot of advice I can give on that one in particular. Just wear what makes you feel good and be confident on stage and really have fun, and you could walk out with a prize. The skit-based one, the performance-based one, and the craftsmanship ones are what this video is going to focus on the most. So with both of them, as I mentioned, there is a craftsmanship part of it. The way these contests are broken out is you have novice, journeyman, and master. Every contest will have different rules for what would qualify you in one of those categories, but typically speaking, novice is you have never won an award. Journeyman is you've won at least one award, up to sometimes like 4, and then masters is you've won best in show or multiple awards, or you're a professional cosplayer. If you're a professional cosplayer, you're already put in the master category. And depending on your level, that will also influence what you choose. So first things first, you want to think about what type of competition you want to enter. If you want to enter a performance-based competition, then the type of cosplay you choose should be functional for the performance that you want to do. So if you want to do something that's very heavy in like a K-pop dance style, you just want to make sure that you can move in the costume that you choose and you're able to execute the costume so that it doesn't fall apart through all of that heavy dancing. If you are planning on going into just a craftsmanship-based one, then you really have a bit more freedom for what you want to choose because it just needs to make it through prejudging and across the stage and you are good. So as I said, your level matters. So let's start with novice. A novice has not won any awards, and they're typically people that are just starting out making their own costumes. A lot of the competition guidelines for a novice is you have to have created at least 50% of your costume, so you can use purchased items or commission the other pieces. When you're a novice, you really want to select something that you know you can pull off cleanly. The big thing with placing in a craftsmanship contest is execution. You don't want to take on too much that you can't complete in time for the contest, or if you are brand new to sewing and brand new to foam smithing, maybe don't choose the piece that has both foam and sewing. Maybe just focus on one of those skills. Choose the armor, make the armor out of foam, and then you purchase the sewn undergarments that you wear under it. Or if you want to focus on sewing, choose a simpler type of outfit that you know you can pull off well. Simple outfits can win cosplay contests. I know everyone thinks that the more elaborate the piece, the better your chances of winning, but simple costumes are actually pretty hard to pull off because there's nowhere to hide your mistakes. You don't have trim to hide your crooked stitching or beads or anything like that to hide your flaws. Everything is on display. But a simple costume is really good for a novice because it helps you learn the basics of sewing, the basics of patterning, the basics of foam smithing or working with Warbla. The simpler, the better. So as a novice entering into a craftsmanship contest, choosing something simple is the best way to go. Now, if you're a journeyman or higher, we can get more complicated. There's always a first in each category, a best novice, best journeyman, best masters, and then there's a fourth award called best in show. If you're gunning for best in show, which I unfortunately always am, which means the pressure is always on for me, best in show really does mean best in show. Actually, some competitions even have a rule saying best in show can only come out of the master category. But you can sometimes win it out of journeyman. I actually did. My first best in show came from I was in journeyman, and that's how I got bumped up to masters. I did not feel ready to be in masters. If you're a journeyman or higher and you're gunning for best in show, this is where complexity really does matter. A simple costume can win, but the idea for best in show is that you showcase as many skills as possible that you can cleanly pull off. That's the key. You don't want to throw everything onto a costume and have it all be halfway done well when you could have chosen 2 or 3 pieces, 2 or 3 skills, pulled those off perfectly. If those 2 costumes were up against each other, the 2 or 3 skills that were pulled off perfectly would win over the 20 skills that were only kind of done okay. So you do want to choose something more complex, and you want to use a variety of options, such as sewing, foam smithing, and warbler, or sewing and intricate wig styling, and I don't know, you made your shoes. Stuff like that. It's those extra skills pulled off cleanly that would perhaps put you above and beyond the rest of the competition. As a journeyman, I find that learning how to dye fabric so cleanly and do some more complex wig styling are really 3 key areas that a journeyman can shine in. If you can perfect those areas and take that into the master level, it just really can set you apart. And if you're in masters, adding in maybe some prop making or some 3D printing can really set you apart from the rest of your competition. Though I will say, master category is rough because that's where everyone is once they have moved through the ranks. That's where the professionals are. It is a tough category to win, but it is so rewarding to get to stand with the masters and pick their brains on how they made their costume and ask for advice. Really, just everyone backstage. Always use this time to get to know the other cosplayers and ask questions because you can find so much valuable knowledge backstage. So that's some general outlines of competitions and some guidance on how to choose a costume. So let's go through some examples. Let's go through some real world examples with my plans for next year. For example, if you've seen my content, you know this, I'm trying to get into the Crown Central Cosplay Championships, which is a really big deal cosplay circuit. I won't go into the details of it, but the competition is absolutely fierce. It is a difficult cosplay competition. So when I was picking my costume, I wanted to choose something that would showcase skills, a wide variety of skills, and then I also wanted to choose something that I could potentially showcase a unique skill. Uniqueness in this particular contest can set you apart. For instance, Sarcasm Hime won with her amazing hand embroidered gown. I think she took it all the way to nationals, super amazing. So when I was choosing my piece for Crown, I specifically looked for something new that I could work on that would be kind of unique. So I chose this build. This is Julieta by Sakizo, and there's a lot of elements here that I think makes a great competition piece. We have sewing, we have armor, which I'm actually making out of leather, which leather is not used too terribly often in cosplay because it's expensive. People typically use EVA foam instead. So I thought that leather would be a nice skill to set it apart. There's custom patterning. There's probably going to be some dyeing of fabric in here. There's embroidery. There's a massive wig. There's going to be prop making. But one of the skills that I think will set her apart that I'm very excited to do is all of this lace. I'm going to try to make my hand make all of my lace, which if I can pull it off will be a really fantastic detail. And that's why I think that this one is great for Crown. It not only has a lot of layers and skills that I can showcase, but it also gives me the opportunity to do something new that you don't see in a lot of cosplay competitions. Now, I do have another piece coming up that I want to make. I want to make this Free Rin outfit from Desi Desu. It has some custom patterning. I'm going to do some leather work, some embroidery. The wig is pigtail wigs. I hate them. I hate them so much. There's a lot that goes into a pigtail wig, and then prop making. It is far less intricate than the Sakizo build, but it is good enough to be a competition piece at maybe a smaller con. So when I'm making this one, I'm looking at a smaller convention. So typically what I'll do when choosing is I get inspired. I work purely off of inspiration. I see something, I get super inspired to do it, I add it to my list, and then when the inspiration takes me, that's what I add onto my actual like plan for the year. Then I find a competition that lines up with the piece. Unless it's something that I know I want to compete in. So for instance, with Crown, I knew I wanted to do that someday, so I waited until I found something I thought was worthy of the Crown circuit. But this Freerun outfit, I looked for a contest that I thought would suit this. So that's one way to help guide you on how you make your decision. The contest you're entering makes all the difference. So if you're entering like a really big, tough competition, you're going to need a really big, elaborate cosplay. But if you're entering like a smaller local con, you may not need something as elaborate. So this particular piece, if I finish it in time, I think I'm going to take to maybe Tampa Bay Comic-Con or something like that, something like smaller and local. Well, I guess Tampa Bay's not that small, but still something more local where I think she has a bit of a chance. And given that it is a bit simpler in construction, I can really showcase my sewing skills in this one. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. Another one that I'm planning out for next year is this Draculara from Monster High. This one is just a fun one. I saw the doll and I fell in love with it. And I just typically don't build cosplays without a competition. Like, I don't like to necessarily make cosplays that don't get to walk the stage. So I saw this doll, knew I wanted to make it, and I was like, I don't know where this will fit. I think I'm going to try for Friday night costume contest at Dragon Con. I got to finally watch one this past year, and it was a wonderful eclectic contest, lots of different skill sets, lots of different types of costumes, and original designs are allowed to be entered in that, which is very unique for a contest. Typically you have to have established artwork or character design so that they can judge accuracy. So finding a contest that allows a custom design is very unique, but I thought this one would fit right in with Dragon Con, so that is what I want to do if I can finish it in time. So that's my 2025 cosplay plans, and you can see how I let the costumes sort of decide where I compete at. But you may not be that way. If you have a local convention or something that you absolutely love going to, like you love to go to MomoCon or something, that's your favorite convention and you want to compete there, then my advice to you would be to research past competitions at that convention. They're usually posted online somewhere. You can go and you can see those, and that will give you a really good idea of the level of competition that you could expect. So do some research on the convention and allow that type of contest to help influence your decision. So I guess the conclusion would be that it's very subjective, of course, and your method may be different than my method for choosing a competition piece. If you have any questions, make sure to put them down in the comment section below, and let me know if you have any other processes that you follow when choosing a competition piece. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear how other people work. Like I said, I'm very inspiration based. I'm very much like when the wind is calling, I have to go in that direction sort of thing, and if I lose inspiration in the middle of the piece, it is very hard for me to finish, which is unfortunate. I have tried to pull myself out of that, but I have just concluded that that's who I am, and I just need to work with it. Yeah, it works for me, I guess. But if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you want, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!